Shalom. First and foremost, I want to start by giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rekah HaKodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well, and peace and blessings to the hopeful elect, pushing this word with all truth, righteousness, and sincerity. Shalom, shalom. This is your brother Quan Watt with the Great Millstone Charlotte Camp, coming with a quick lesson through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Bahasham Shai. And today, as we see, and as I had the lesson titled, right, prophecy is mainstream, man, right? Prophecy has become mainstream, but only the wise will understand, right? We've got World War III tensions, right? Where America is at war with Iran. You've got the continual, push for the MOTB system to be established, right? You've got sedition. You've got the various T attacks and things of that nature, man, right? But all these things, right, are prophecy, right? This is all the will of Yahweh Shema Shai taking place in the earth, right? But only the wise will understand. Only the elect ultimately are going to understand these things, and it starts with the prophets, right? The prophets are the ones who have been putting this vibration out through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai, man, right? And now it's coming to fruition where it's the main talking points of discourse in the world right now, right? Everybody's talking about something that pertains to prophecy, right? Whether they understand it or not, right? Which we know that the majority don't. Even though there are people who parallel and can come to the conclusions of certain things coming from the scriptures, they don't have the understanding of why these things are taking place, man, right? So like it. But I wanted to start here. This is Daniel 12:9. It reads, and he said, "Go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed until the time of the end. Many shall be purified and made white and tried, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand." Right? So the wise are understanding what's taking place right now, man. Right? Understanding that we're watching the downfall of this wicked kingdom. Right? We're watching the final, what's the word? The final stand of Babylon the Great and everything associated with it, man. Right? We understand that World War III, right, is gonna go through that that Middle East region, right? We understand that all these things taking place, them pushing for the downfall of the economy, right? Them pushing for more and more uproars amongst the people, right? Domestically, all these things. Even you see people drawing the what's the word? Seeing how Israel is drawing America into the war, man. All these things are prophecy, right? Let's get that real quick, right? Right, because people are seeing that not a Jew has Trump, right, pretty much on a leash right now, man, right? This is Jeremiah 49:20. Therefore, hear the counsel of the Lord. So like it. Therefore, hear the counsel of the Lord. Right, and that counsel, like it said, it said in the NLT. Listen to the Lord's plans. Right, it says that He had taken against Edom. So all these things that you see taking place in the earth are to bring forth the end of the Edomite hegemony, man. Right, everything that you see in regards to World War III, in regards to the push for AI surveillance and governance, the fall of the economy, right? The what else is going on? The exposure, right, through the Epstein list. All these things being in the mainstream media, right? All these things being the main focus of people's conversation today, right? Is all the will of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, man. right? Which signals that we're at the end, right? It says, surely it's like and his purposes that he had proposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock going into Amalek, right? The small hat. It says, surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely, it's like, yeah. It says, surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. Right? So the least of the flock, right, being these Amalekites, are pulling America into World War, right? They're pulling them into these different conflicts, right? And now the world is seeing it. Everybody's recognizing it. Everybody's bringing it up in conversation because it's becoming more and more clear, right, day by day. You know, the scriptures talk about how. Actually, let's get that. These things are even at the doors, right? When when something's at the door and it's knocking, that those knocks get louder and louder, man. Right? So it's harder to avoid, right? It's harder to ignore. That's why, let me get this definition. For mainstream, out of the Free Dictionary, it says the prevailing current of thought, influence, or activity, right? This is the way, the flow of the mindset of the people now, man, right? People are either distracted by what's going on, right? Or they're everybody's consumed in prophecy, right? And the ones who are distracted, or I'll say this, anybody who's not consumed in prophecy right now, right, is was to be cast away in the first place, man. That's why you see these other groups not speaking on these topics, because they're ultimately not the prophets, man. Because the prophets come in that in the mind frame of Yahweh Shai, right? Because the testimony of Yahweh Shai is the spirit of prophecy, right? Let's get that. This is Revelation 19:10. I fell to his feet to worship him, and he said unto me, see thou do it not. I am thy fellow servant of thy brethren that have the testimony of Yahweh Shai, right? Worship the Most High, for the testimony of Yahweh Shai is the spirit of prophecy. And we're seeing that testimony going forth, right? And now it's the prevailing narrative in the earth, right? Everything that you see, if it's not one of these things, set to distract you, right? It's speaking of prophecy, man, right? All the mainstream media, all the news sources, even though they are given a skewed narrative, right? If you listen to, America or British news, so you have to go, to these international sources, right? But the point being that everybody's speaking on things that are in regards to prophecy, whether it be, right, Ezekiel 38, right? Because we know Russia's going to be getting involved in this Iranian conflict soon, right? At some point, they're going to have to, make their presence felt as well. Or whether it be Second Ezra 15 and 16, man, right? Going into, let's get that real quick, right? Going into the sedition, going into the fall of the society, right? We're seeing all these come to pass, man, right? Even you go into Ezekiel 36, where it's telling you how the Holy Land would be occupied by heathen, man, right? Amalek is being exposed. People are questioning the validity of their claim to those lands, man, right? Which is prophecy, right? You go into, I believe it's Luke's second chapter, I believe. No, I think it's Luke 12th chapter. It talks about how all things will be exposed, man, right? That exposure is part of prophecy, right? Everything that you see, right? All the internet conversations, right? People are speaking on things that pertain to prophecy, right? Actually, let me get this real quick. And then we'll jump back, right? Let's see, lion. Yep. This is Amos 3 and 7. Started in 6. It reads, shall a trumpet, select it. Shall a trumpet be blown in the city, and the people not be afraid? Shall there be evil in a city, and the Lord hath not done it? And we're seeing that trumpet being blown, man, that warning, right? Through the spirit of Yahweh Shem Shai, the warning is going out to you Israelites, man, right? To get yourself in order, you Negro, Latino, Native Americans, right? Hispanics, right? As well as you Israelite foreigners, man, right? Right, those who don't look like the those people, but your spirit is an Israelite, man, right? The warning is going out to you, right, to get your house in order, right, because you see what's taking place. You see prophecy, right, ramping up at all-time highs, man, right? You see World War III. You see the sedition. You see the coming pestilences and plagues, right? Everything, right, is ramping up because we're coming towards the time of the end, man, or we're in the end, right? As brothers say, we're in the last days of the last days, right? But continuing on, it says, surely the Lord power will do nothing, but he revealeth his secret unto his servants, the prophets, right? So, as I titled the lesson, right, only the wise will understand, right? Even though prophecy has become mainstream, right, the true understanding is coming from the men of the Lord, man, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shai, right? He's revealing these secrets. He's revealing these understandings of these parables, right, unto his men, right? As the scriptures talk about, you are no longer servants but friends, because your friend knows the Father's will, or knows his will and understands it, man, right? It says the lion hath roared, right, and that lion, right, starting with Yahweh Shai, right, and that roar is going out right across the earth, right? That frequency is going out across the earth, right? And then shall the end come, as the scriptures say. It says, the Lord power hath spoken, who can but prophesy, right? So, as brothers make mention of that third witness, right? Even when we're not speaking on prophecy, right? Brothers got jobs and things of that nature, right? When we're not speaking on it, it's being spoken of regardless, man, right? They might not understand the significance of it in regards to the scripture, right? But it's still going out in the earth because it's the spirit of Yahweh Shem Shai, right? That's dealing with these things, man. That's what it says, who can but prophesy. That's why these things are mainstream, man, right? Going back to that word. It says the prevailing current of thought, influence, or activity, right? Everybody's thoughts are on World War III. Everybody's thoughts are on the digital economy coming. Everybody's thoughts are on civil war. Everybody's thoughts are on, right, a coming invasion towards America, right? Everybody's thoughts are on, all these things in regards to prophecy, the famines, plagues, right, great death that's going to come, right, as a result of an economic collapse, right? It says representing the prevalent attitudes, values, and practices of a society or a group, right? So everybody's attitude is turning toward getting understanding on, what's happening geopolitically, domestically, right, in regards to prophecy, right? But again, that understanding only comes from the men of the Lord, man, right? Let me see here. back to this. This is back in 2nd Ezra 15. And we'll start in verse 1. It says, Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord. Right? So, as the men, starting with our apostles, right, and the elders on down, right, they were given this word, they were given this understanding, right, to speak the words of prophecy. And now we're seeing the results, right, of that going out into the earth, right? As these warnings go out. Oh, yeah, let me get that. Right? As these warnings have gone out, it's tearing down those strongholds, man. Right? And we're seeing these things coming to the final culmination, man. Let's see. Yep. It's a lot here. This is Matthew 24, and I start in 11. It's Matthew 24 and 11. And many false prophets shall rise and deceive many. Right? Actually, I'll start up. Man. Let's start in 4. It reads, And Yahweh shall answer unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Hamashiach, and shall deceive many. Right? And, with the understanding that we're seeing prophecy unfold, right, and it's becoming, right, the mainstream talking points in the earth, there are going to be people who claim that they have the understanding, man, right? That claim that they're receiving messages from on high, right? They're receiving these different visions and things of that nature, man. But those people are coming to deceive, right? It says, and you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet, right? So we're seeing, right, wars and rumors of wars, right? We're seeing this conflict, right? But we understand prophecy has to happen in the correct orders, man, right? The mark of the beast still has to be implemented, man, right? It still has to become that hour of temptation before the nuclear war can really kick off, right? So though this is going to be an intense little back and forth, we understand, right, the order of things has to follow the will of Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai, man, right? It says, for nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, right, which people are speaking on, right? And famine goes into both the famine of food, but we're gonna see the famine of the word as well, man. Right? The famine of correct information. Right? There's gonna be a famine of what's the word? A financial famine. Right? People aren't gonna be able to afford to go and buy food, man. Right? It says, and pestilences. Right? They got new pestilences on the way. I know it's either, I think measles is having a resurgence in America right now as we speak, right? It's all types of stuff out there, right? All these different diseases. and earthquakes in diverse places. You know, brothers got the earthquake counter, right? There's every single day, right? All these are the beginning of sorrows, right? So we're still in the beginning of sorrows, man, right? The beginning of those birth pains, right? As it says in the NLT, right? Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake, right? Because that persecution is coming as well, right? And they hate because of this testimony, man. It says, and then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another, right? And we're seeing that division, right? Coming, coming to America, man. It says, and many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many, and because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold, right? And that's what we're seeing. There's no more trust amongst the American people to each other, right? They don't trust the government. They don't trust themselves. They don't trust their friends, their neighbors, their families, right? Going back to that division, going into, right, the love of many waxing cold, right? It's going to be more of these sleeper cell attacks, right, that are going to continue to push that distrust, right? Verse 13. But he that endure, but he that endure unto the end, the same shall be saved, right? So it's about enduring, right, overcoming, right, through the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, right, as we see all these things unfolding. Verse 14, the point, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, right? So it's going out through this internet, man, right? Through these lessons that brothers is putting up through the camps, right? The gospel of Yahweh's kingdom, right, being established, right? The gospel of this Edomite kingdom being destroyed, right? And nobody outside of Israel coming into power again, right? It's going into all the nations, right? The people seeing World War III, right? Because now this is going to draw people into, right, questioning or having to try to connect the dots between the scriptures, prophecy, right, and world events, right? Even though they've tried for decades, right, hundreds of years, really, to try to disassociate the Bible from the modern world, right? These prophecies are bringing that back together, man, right? Because people are like, what? There's no answers anywhere else, right? And any type of what's the word? Optimism, right, gets quelled by prophecy, man, right? Any type of light at the end of the tunnel, the prophecy tells you otherwise, right? It says, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached unto all the world for a witness unto all nations. So they all hearing this, right? They're all seeing this, they're hearing it, and everybody is speaking on it, man, right? This is the prevailing thought in the minds of the people in the world right now, right? Is things that are prophecy. It says unto all nations, and then shall the end come, right? So we're watching the end in progress, man. That's a lesson right there. The end is in progress. But just the point I wanted to get is that as we see prophecy becoming hitting the mainstream, right? But only those, right, who are chosen by Yahweh Bashim Yahushai are gonna truly understand, man, right? We're the only ones who have that eye salve, right? We're the only ones who. Let's get this here. Let's see, Hebrews. Romans. Yep. This is Romans chapter 11 and verse 7. It reads, "What then? Israel hath not obtained that which it seeketh for, but the election have obtained it, and the rest were blinded." Right? So the election have obtained this understanding, right? The election have obtained the faith, right? The election have obtained the fear of the Lord, man, right? But the rest can't see it, right? Nobody else understands, right, the significance of the times that we're in outside of just seeing, right, that we're at war, that we're, right, in the midst of all these different catastrophic events, truthfully, man, right? They don't understand that this is prophecy unfolding before their eyes. This is the will, the purpose that the Lord has proposed, right, among the nations, man, right? Let's get that. I think it's Isaiah. Isaiah 24. But even this, you see the nuclear, is speaking on nuclear destruction here in Isaiah 24, right? That's prophecy. But and people are speaking, people have that fear of nuclear destruction coming, man. Right? These are all talking points that are hit mainstream media, right? Because they want to get in front of the narrative, right? Because they know that as soon as people start looking into prophecy, right, then they're gonna come to us, man. Right? They're gonna start coming to brothers who understand this, man. Starting with our leadership, man. Right over here at GMS, right, and then those who believe and teach the same doctrine. And I'll close out because I think that's the point. Yep. Isaiah 14. So Isaiah 14 and starting in verse 24, it reads, "The Lord of hosts hath sworn, saying, Surely as I have thought, so shall it come to pass. And as I have purposed, so shall it stand." And we understand the will of the Lord, man. Right? We know why these things are coming to pass. The world doesn't. They just see it as the end, right? But we see it as the downfall of a kingdom, right? And the establishment of a righteous power to come, man. Right? They just see it as, global tension, right? But we see it as the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, ramping up prophecy to get us out of here, man. Right? Speeding these things up for the elect's sake. That I will break the Assyrian in my land, and upon my mountains tread him underfoot. Then shall his yoke depart from off them, and his burden depart from off their shoulders, right? Because he's coming to redeem the elect. This is the purpose that is proposed upon the earth, the whole earth, right? So the whole earth, like it says, the Lord has a plan for the whole earth, man, right? So what you see in the earth right now, right, is all prophecy unfolding, right? It's all the will of the Lord unfolding, right? Whether it be Epstein exposure, right? The elites, right, being exposed for their debaucherous activities, whether it be World War III, right? Whether it be anything that you see, right, touching the mainstream media now, right, is prophecy, right? Outside of the distractions, that they push, right, to keep the minds of the people at ease, right? All the other mass events that you see coming to pass, right, have been prophesied, man, right? The warnings have gone out, right? That's why it say publish among the nations, man, right? This word was published, right, so that there's no excuse for you Israelites, and there was a warning being given to the rest of the heathen, man, right? That these things are gonna come to pass, right? Finishing this out. Verse 26, "This is the purpose that is proposed upon the whole earth, and this is the hand that is stretched out upon all the nations." Again, the spirit of Yahweh Shai, right? He's that hand, the hand of the Lord. And the spirit of Yahweh Shai is what? Prophecy, man. Right? For the Lord of hosts hath proposed, and who shall disannul it? And his hand is stretched out, and who shall turn it back? Right? So there's no going back, right? And we understand that, right? This is that, what's the word? The snowball effect, man. Right? Once one domino falls, then all you have to do is wait until the end, man. Right? And that's what we're doing. Right? We're watching, we're waiting, right? Because we know the Lord is doing a mighty work in the earth right now, man. And the people are seeing it, but they don't understand it is the will of the Lord. They just see the prophecies unfolding. So no, just a quick lesson to the spirit, probably how about Shemal Shai. Lord willing, that was edifying. I'm going to close by giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rekah HaKodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well. And peace and blessings to the hopeful elect, pushing this word with all truth, righteousness, and sincerity. Shalom, shalom. And Kwame Yasharala and the Bible Ball. Shalom.